Western Conference standings. They lost by 10 at home to Sacramento. The loss dropped the Lakers down to the 10th spot. Something went wrong in the second quarter. The Lakers led by 19 in the first quarter, but trailed by 15 at the half. A solid game by LeBron was wasted. He had 31 points and 13 assists. The Clippers won by 6 in Houston. The Clippers are now 19 games over 500. Kawhi Leonard had 28 points and 7 assists. USC will play Arizona tonight in the Pac-12 women's basketball tournament in Las Vegas. The Trojans, the number 2 seed, had a first-round bye. 6 p.m. tip-off on the Pac-12 network. UCLA also had a first-round bye. The Bruins, the number 3 seed, will play Utah tonight at 8:30. If USC and UCLA win, they will meet up in the semifinals Friday night. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. This show is called First Things First, and my first thing today and every day, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and getting it started. And what a show it is today, people. What a show. What a show. Am I really on one like that? Yes. This is how we do the show. It's not election season anymore, so we're back to like sort of more normal thing, right? So hour 1, we usually look local. Hour 2, we go national, international, and beyond. In the third hour, we do a deep dive with a person or hot topic of interest. And today we'll be talking with James DuBose. He was the general manager of Fox Soul TV. He's got a new network, a black network. And I'll give you the scoop on that in hour 3. You're invited in to call us every minute of every hour, 800-920-1580. Okay, not during the news, but other than that, 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. You're invited into the chat. We're on YouTube.com and then KBLA 1580. And I love hearing the convo in there. I know a lot of folks in there are at work and can't call me, so it's wonderful to hear your commentary. We're starting off the week very strong this week. Well, this day. It's actually an important day because we're starting off the day with one of our favorite historians. He holds the Moores Professorship of History and African American Studies at the University of Houston. He is a prolific author and researcher with tons and tons of books, which you can find at a black bookstore or on Amazon near you. And he's a superstar on YouTube. If you want to see him lecture, you can just type in his name. I'm talking about Dr. Gerald Horne. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. Oh, my goodness. I know I said local, but I have some national, international, and beyond questions for you. How are you doing? I mean, Dr. Horne reads so many papers. He doesn't miss a story, and so I'm sure this election, in some ways, this Super Tuesday must be pretty chilling for you.
Well, what was chilling was the poll from the New York Times a day or two before Super Tuesday that suggested in the presidential race, Mr. Trump is leading Mr. Biden by 5 points.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we have to issue the immediate qualifier that national polls in a presidential race are not as persuasive as you might think, because Hillary Rodham Clinton got more votes in 2016 than Mr. Trump. In other words, it's a 50-plus state race. And just because Mr. Trump is ahead nationally doesn't necessarily mean he's ahead in the Electoral College. But having said that, if you go down deeper, you see that Mr. Trump is ahead in Nevada, your neighbor, by 7 points. He's ahead in Georgia, which went for Mr. Biden in 2020. He's competitive in Wisconsin. He's competitive in Michigan. So this presidential race is going to be a real difficult struggle.
What do we do if he gets reelected? I mean, that's a question actually I've been contemplating more recently, because it's looking like that could actually be our fate.
Well, it's an individual choice. I have to confess, on an individual level, I've been exploring various venues. And of course, you may have seen that article in the New York Times the other day describing the so-called Blaxit phenomenon.
Yeah.
That is the black exit from the United States, with folks moving to Panama, to Ghana, to Mexico, to Canada. Mm-hmm. But everybody's not capable. Everybody's not able to just pack their bags and leave. And so I think for those who are stuck in North America, it's just going to be redoubling the struggle.
To me, Dr. Horne, they call everybody a communist. They call Biden a communist. So if you are actually a communist or a socialist, seems like, a Trump dictatorship is coming for you.
Well, for sure. And I think that as you begin to look for places of exile, you may want to look to a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States. But I think that what's going to be unique about the United States, assuming that Mr. Trump is elected, I expect him to go after liberals initially. For example, he's already suggested he's going to have a special prosecutor to go after the Biden family. He'll probably go after the Obamas. And I think that because they have resources, perhaps they can fight him to a standstill, and those to the left of those former presidents might have a breather.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, I think about it too. I was thinking Zimbabwe, but because I loved it there. But I think I'm team stay and fight. I mean, I could leave, but my ancestors fought for this doggone place and like shed blood and 12 generations with no pay. And I don't know. I'm not ready to walk away and leave all that to fascism.
Well, for sure. And speaking of Zimbabwe, there was a bit of good news for Zimbabwe in the sense that the United States reduced sanctions against this country. That is to say that sanctions against the economy were reduced, they kept sanctions on the leaders. But in many ways, that was a victory that didn't get much attention in the national or even
Yeah, I
global
didn't see
media.
that at all. And that's huge because when we were there last year, that was a big topic. It's not like some esoteric theoretical thing for the people living there. You can't even fly direct. Well, maybe you can now. You couldn't fly directly into Zimbabwe. We had to go around and take a national carrier. And the boycott, the economic sanctions from the West were really hurting regular everyday people.
Well, I think part of the story is that its neighbor, South Africa, is also coming under criticism from the United States because of its front row position in terms of going after Israel in the International Court of Justice. And in fact, it's gone back to the ICJ suggesting that Israel be further punished because of the rising level of starvation in Gaza. And because of South Africa's vanguard role, that means it's coming under attack. And I think that what might be happening at the end of the day is that Zimbabwe may be joining the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And Zimbabwe is a storehouse of natural resources. And the United States might feel that it does not want to see Zimbabwe go down that route, becoming ever more closer to China and Russia. And so, therefore, it lessens the sanctions.
Yeah, well, we can go off down that road because one thing I did see in Zimbabwe, it's similar to South Africa in that white people own almost everything. And they pay those $20 a day wages to black people and treat them terrible. So even though supposedly there's this liberation and some land has been, retaken, it's still pretty much, it's very similar to South Africa in terms of the fact that you got your country, but you didn't get your land, you didn't get your reparations, you got nothing but theoretical freedom.
Well, it's a process, it's a struggle. Keep in mind, sanctions were imposed on Zimbabwe in the first instance precisely because they made steps towards land reform.
Right, exactly.
And that's oftentimes lost sight of. Oftentimes you hear this discussion that it was human rights violations. But if you look at Zimbabwe and South Africa's neighbors, like Swaziland, for example, it has a much more terrible human rights record than Zimbabwe does by far. Yet it was not subjected to sanctions, basically because they were willing to play ball with Uncle Sam.
Yeah, I think that's right. It just, and when I went to Zimbabwe, the people that I talked to, the regular everyday black people, were really proud of taking that land back and really understood and, had strong feelings about we'd do it again, and even if we faced these same sanctions.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's a testament to the steadfastness of the leadership in Zimbabwe. One of the things that struck me when I was living in Zimbabwe was that the leaders at the top were as intelligent and sophisticated as leaders anywhere. The problem was they didn't have a very deep bench because, after all, the country is only about 12 or 13 million. And so how can it measure up to a country like the United States with a population of 330 million? And so I think that the leaders have done a good job in terms of keeping the nation on course. And the fact that sanctions have been lifted against the country but kept on the leaders is a testament to their ability.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah. Talking with Dr. Gerald Horne, I know this is our local hour, but when we come forward, I do want to talk about Haiti. We haven't had a chance to focus at all on what's going on there. And of course, your takeaways from what happened in California, what's happening in California in real time. You're welcome to join this conversation. We have Dr. Gerald Horne, and I know you have questions and conversation for him, 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Psst, hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Gabby.
Hey, Gabby. It's Jennifer Coolidge. Hi. I'm so glad I reached you at 2 a.m.
Oh, of course. Anyone with a Discover card can call and talk to a real person 24/7. Now, how can I help?
Yeah, I used my Discover card to buy these yellow pleather pajamas, and I'm just not sure I'm pulling them off.
24/7 U.S.-based customer service. It pays to Discover. Limitations apply. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
If you're looking for the most epic place on Earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right
now. So I've been reading about Haiti amidst all of this election talk, and I do want to get your take on the State of the Union tonight as well. But even though it seems to be pretty chaotic and, majorly problematic, as we tend to see with Haiti, because, the meddling of the West has left them with a whole bunch of problems. This, from what I'm reading, seems pretty, I don't know. I don't see the way forward.
Well, I understand why. I mean, the latest news is that the so-called Prime Minister Ariel Henry had gone to Kenya to try to encourage Kenya to send police forces to Haiti. That's a plan backed by the United States, by the way. But he's not able to return to the country because those described as, quote, gangs, unquote, have taken over the airport, and he's stuck in Puerto Rico. Likewise, recall that the crisis accelerated a couple of years ago when the president, Moise, was slain in his bed. The latest news there is that his spouse, who of course was in bed with him at the time he was slain and was not killed, is now being implicated in her ex-spouse's death. I wish I could make a simple recommendation with regard to the way out concerning Kenya. The easy remedy and the easy suggestion is for the neighbors, Jamaica, Barbados, particularly Cuba, to be involved in a solution. But with regard to that latter country, particularly Cuba, which in many ways is the giant of the Caribbean, we all know about their rather star-crossed relations with the United States, and that makes the role of the Cubans problematic from Washington's point of view.
Yeah, that was like a Lifetime movie to me. Your wife is implicated in your assassination. Okay. But, when we hear it in the U.S. press, it's always framed as, gangs that have taken over. And I actually have at least one friend there in Haiti that, does tell me it's pretty dangerous, right? But can you put that in context? I mean, as far as where we are right now and why it's the way it is, this chaos that we have right now?
Well, it depends on your starting point. You could go back. No, really. I mean, you could go back to the really profound triumph of the enslaved by 1804, but then by the 1820s, the new regime had to pay a kind of reparations to the former enslavers, had to borrow money in order to pay those reparations, so-called, and that has crippled the regime since its inception. Or you could fast forward to the 20th century when the triumph of the Cuban Revolution led to panic in Washington and the backing of the Duvalier right-wing anti-communist regime, which penalized and pulverized progressive forces, chasing them into New York and into Montreal and into Paris. So the North Atlantic powers, particularly the United States, are implicated in Haiti's travails, which makes it difficult to think that they will also be part of the solution.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about tonight. Amid sort of record low approval ratings and coming out of, I guess Biden had a victorious Super Tuesday, but still is sent these messages about, Gaza through the non-committed votes. And, it just, of course, the strong polling that you mentioned earlier, where Trump seems to be in poll after poll, you could say it's within the margin of error mostly, but not all, seems to be leading. What are you looking for? I mean, and of course, this narrative that Biden is incompetent and old and, has dementia or whatever the right puts out, even though Trump is almost just as old and doesn't seem to keep track of facts that well either. What do you think? What are you looking for tonight? Do you think Joe Biden can help himself?
Oh, clearly. And according to press reports, he's going to make new proposals about taxes against billionaires. I'm sure that women's reproductive choices will be on the agenda, particularly this latest issue out of Alabama with regard to circumscribing in vitro fertilization, which, by the way, as you know, many conservatives are hostile to what the Alabama Supreme Court did there. And for Mr. Biden, given this narrative that's been shaped in terms of him being a doddering, well-meaning old man, as the special counsel that investigated his misplacing of documents put it, if he can just get through this evening reading the teleprompter competently, it'll be a victory against that particular narrative. But of course, we have to focus on the program, on the policies, such as the ones I've just mentioned.
I meant to ask you that last time, you Warren. That special counsel, that, assessment of the president, basically, like it was almost like a medical assessment by a special prosecutor. That seems like it should be illegal. The vice president, called it inappropriate and wrong. I don't know. That was just one of those moments that felt like a political hit job that felt out of bounds. From a legal perspective, is that normal? Is that, you can just do that if you're a special prosecutor? You can just say whatever about whoever you're investigating with no expertise or proof per se?
Well, it's a tricky question. I assume that Attorney General Merrick Garland had to sign off on this document before it was released. That's point number one. Point number two, James Comey, recall that he investigated Hillary Rodham Clinton with regard to the so-called missing emails, and he made comments.
Yeah, to me that was the same problem. I mean, that was almost like a quiet coup, like because it was right before the election. He makes those comments, and it certainly didn't help her.
So that set a precedent to a certain degree that this new counsel, Robert Hur, H-U-R, has followed. Now, of course, there's a controversy as to when and whether the transcript of their conversations between Mr. Hur and Mr. Biden will be released.
Right.
And Mr. Hur's team is suggesting that the reason there's a slowdown on releasing the transcript is because he says it will vindicate his approach. We'll know if and when the transcript is released.
Yep. So let's talk California a little bit, Dr. Horne. Of course, a lot of us were really disappointed with the showing of Congresswoman Barbara Lee. They're talking about it in the YouTube chat, and I haven't seen these numbers, but Paul Lee is saying that only 49% of black people voted for, that 49% voted for Schiff and 27% voted for Lee. If that's true, that's disappointing. But, once again, it looks like, we'll definitely end up with a white man in the Senate, Garvey or Schiff, and it's probably, 95% chance it'll be Schiff. What are your thoughts on that race?
Well, I was disappointed not only about the turnout, but also by the totals racked up by Congresswoman Barbara Lee and also Congresswoman Katie Porter of Orange County, for that matter. Obviously, Adam Schiff had a stranglehold over campaign donations. He also seemed to do better in getting endorsements from labor unions than either Katie Porter or Congresswoman Barbara Lee. But I think it was a bit selfish, his running these ads, pumping up Mr. Garvey so that he could have him as his opponent, because I think that helped to hype conservative and GOP turnout. And you don't need to be hyping conservative and GOP turnout, no matter what your motivation is.
Yeah. And I guess we'll see how that plays out in the general election. But it worries me. My colleague Ed Sanders, who talked me off the ledge yesterday about disgraced racist council member Kevin De Leon being the leading vote getter in his pack, was saying, well, he doesn't think that, Schiff is going to that Schiff's making that move actually would motivate Republicans who weren't already going to the polls to go to the polls, that if they were already there, yeah, they'll vote for Garvey, but he didn't think it would change the electorate.
Well, I'm not so sure. I guess we'd have to do a study to find out. But I have to believe that if you're running round-the-clock commercials basically suggesting that Mr. Garvey is Trump 2.0, that'll trickle into the brains of conservatives, and they'll see him as their man. Because after all, I mean, look, Mr. Garvey, he's scandal-ridden. He has children who he hasn't spoken to in years and who don't want to speak to their father. I mean, he was a national punchline about a few decades ago when he was impregnating different women. And that's the contradiction amongst these so-called family values candidates, is that on the one side, they're talking about family values, but if you look at their praxis, such as the 3 times divorced Mr. Trump and the alleged rapist Mr. Trump and all the rest, you have to wonder about what does family values really mean, and how do their supporters reconcile those contradictions?
Yeah. Talking with Dr. Gerald Horne and you, 800-920-1580. We got news, traffic, sports, then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The organization Black Voters Matter is mounting an effort to oppose plans to vacate the Tennessee State Board of Trustees. The nonprofit is launching a text campaign to oppose legislation supported by state Senate Republicans. GOP lawmakers are proposing a measure to get rid of the current TSU board, citing ongoing financial problems Black Voters Matter is texting information on the legislation to thousands of citizens, asking them to contact their state representatives and urge them to vote no on the bill. Ex-owner Elon Musk says the social media platform is considering getting rid of showing how many likes and reposts a post gets. Speaking at a conference Wednesday, Musk said the info could clutter content on the service. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers missed out on a chance to move up in the Western Conference standings. They lost by 10 at home to Sacramento. The loss dropped the Lakers down to the 10th spot. Something went wrong in the second quarter. The Lakers led by 19 in the first quarter, but trailed by 15 at the half. A solid game by LeBron was wasted. He had 31 points and 13 assists. The Clippers won by 6 in Houston. The Clippers are now 19 games over 500. Kawhi Leonard had 28 points and 7 assists. USC will play Arizona tonight in the Pac-12 women's basketball tournament in Las Vegas. The Trojans, the number 2 seed, had a first-round bye. 6 p.m. tip-off on the Pac-12 network. UCLA also had a first-round bye. The Bruins, the number 3 seed, will play Utah tonight at 8:30. If USC and UCLA win, they will meet up in the semifinals Friday night. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
LADWP is proud to partner with KBLA to share with you how to start the new year without bill worries. We're here to help if you're behind on your bill or need help staying current. Sign up anytime online for Level Pay to set predictable monthly payments throughout the year, including for past due amounts. You can also check out the special extended pay arrangements of up to 48 months to help pay down your bill. If you're a senior or income qualified, you may be eligible for Easy Save to receive discounts and also qualify for free and discounted energy and water saving devices. You can get up to $15,000 for past due water and or sewer bills and up to $3,000 for electric bills. But you gotta act fast. Funding is limited. You can reduce your past due bills and kick off the year right, because here at LADWP, we're here to help. Visit LADWP.com/cares today and find out more.
Hey Californians, are you ready to make your home ownership dreams come true? The California Dream for All Shared Appreciation Loan Program might be for you. First-generation homebuyers can get down payment and closing cost assistance along with a first mortgage to help you unlock the door of your new home. Applications open in April, so talk to an approved lender to see if you're eligible. Find out more at calhfa.ca.gov/dream or call 877-922-5432. A message from the California Housing Finance Agency.
Hi, I'm Dominique DiPrima, inviting you to join me at the City of Hawthorne's Business Expo and Job Fair, presented by Hawthorne City Councilwoman Katrina Manning. Explore great opportunities with leading national and local companies and participate in panel discussions with top entrepreneurs such as Goose the Barber, Camille C. Terry, and special guest speaker Danny Bakewell Jr., president of the LA Sentinel. So please join me and Council Member Katrina Manning on Thursday, March 14th from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Hawthorne Memorial Center at 3901 West El Segundo Boulevard in Hawthorne for the Hawthorne Business Expo and Job Fair. That's Thursday, March 14th, the City of Hawthorne's Business Expo and Job Fair. Visit their website at hawthornebusinessexpo.org or call 310-349-2908. That's 310-349-2908 to register. It's absolutely free and open to the public. I'll see you there.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows that Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we have the amazing Dr. Gerald Horne with us. He's the author of more than 30 books and 100 scholarly articles and reviews. And support Dr. Horne. Go buy his books. There's even a Dr. Horne reader now, where you can just catch up on the basic Dr. Horne work. Dr. Horne, do you think that what you saw in California? I mean, we talked about the Senate race, but even I don't know. I suppose you're probably tracking the DA's race here, right? Where you had 12 candidates, and our DA, our incumbent progressive district attorney, George Gascon, gets around 21% of the vote. Actually, I haven't updated that number. It might have changed slightly. But just as I was comforted by Ed Sanders saying, well, if De Leon got 27% of the vote, that means 73% of the voters in his district chose someone else. The opposite could be said in this situation with Gascon, where he may have a pretty tough battle come November.
Well, you have to keep in mind that these prosecutors' races are attracting the attention of the donor class. For example, you heard about what happened to Marilyn Mosby, the black woman prosecutor in Baltimore, who now may be headed to jail because certain allegations concerning buying real estate and what she signed on to. You had the ouster of a black woman prosecutor in St. Louis, Kim Gardner. And these jobs are attracting attention because they're at the forefront of this battle around so-called law and order. Now, with regard to Mr. Gascon, I think it was, in a sense, a victory because you have this other candidate, Chemerinsky, I think his name is, who outraised just about everybody. But he was, of course, hammering Mr. Gascon implicitly, if not explicitly. And given that, I think that Mr. Gascon did quite well, not to mention the fact that there's still a kind of aftertaste with regard to those who supported his predecessor, Jackie Lacey, who did not appreciate Mr. Gascon taking her out.
Yeah, we had like an 18% voter turnout. I think Chemerinsky, I thought, would do better given how much he had in his coffers and the famous name, his youth, and not coming out with a super hardline kind of conservative approach. But he didn't do that well. And it looks like Mr. Gascon will face this guy, Nathan Hochman, who also raised goo-gobs of money, who was a Republican until 10 minutes ago and ran and lost for Attorney General to the progressive Rob Bonta, who's currently our state Attorney General. So, when it comes to the funding issue, that stuff is going to be... He's going to be facing another very well-resourced opponent. And I think you put it in context of this wave of attacks on progressive prosecutors and policies. It's troubling for me.
Well, I didn't even mention Alvin Bragg, the black man who's the prosecutor in Manhattan, who, of course, will have Mr. Trump on trial rather shortly because of that hush money case involving the adult film star Stormy Daniels. He's coming under attack. He will be facing ever stiffer competition in coming months and years. And so as long as this so-called law and order issue is a front burner issue, prosecutors will be attracting arrows in their chests.
Yeah. I mean, I know people don't consider Fonnie Willis to be progressive, and some folks say she created her own problems, but it is rather coincidental that all of these folks that are, prosecutors in positions to either go after the former president or enact a progressive agenda are just being targeted either by recall, which of course Gascon survived, or by some kind of campaign which took down Marilyn Mosby, as you mentioned. And, what she's accused of doing is so much less serious than what Trump is accused of doing in New York, right? What he actually has been convicted of doing in New York with his funny style cooking of the books.
Well, the Marilyn Mosby situation is a real tragedy. Not only may she might be going to jail after prosecuting police officers who were responsible for the death of the black youth Freddie Gray, but it probably contributed to the breakup of her marriage with Nick Mosby, who is a rising star in the political firmament of Baltimore. And I should also mention, speaking of going after attorney, I'm thinking of the Attorney General of the state of New York, Letitia James, who socked Mr. Trump with a $450+ million judgment. I've seen some negative articles recently about her campaign spending. So look for her to be next in the bullseye.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, if you slap the former president, what was it, $355 million in fines or something, plus interest, the odds that you're going to be targeted are high. I don't know a lot about her, but she seems like an eccentric person. And a very determined one at that. And of course, they've had all those, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen them on social media. The right is saying that she probably a communist, or that she targeted Trump from day one. And, I figure that drip, 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 eventually, they're coming for her as well.
Oh, you can bet your last dollar on that. And with regard to coming after Mr. Trump, well, I mean, it would seem to be nonfeasance if she did not announce that, for example. I mean, everybody knows about all the scandals involving Mr. Trump and Trump University, these new sneakers, for example, which is another hustle. And so the top law enforcement officer in New York State almost has to investigate this guy.
Yeah, well, I think that's right. But it's, it's always the spin, right? It's not at this point. At this point, I feel like we're in a time, and there's always been spin. There's always been liars. There's always been gaslighting. But it just seems like a much bigger percentage of the population is willing to completely ignore facts and reality. It's, I don't know. It's the I don't believe in planet syndrome for me. That worries me. Okay. Do you believe in cars? I mean, at what point, if it's something you can see with your own eyes, do you have to, can you continue to be in denial about it? I mean, you don't need a telescope. You can look up in the sky and see stars and planets.
Well, I think part of the problem is that this small planet is changing in ways that has not evinced previously. And therefore, people find it difficult to accept these changes. I mean, for example, climate change, for example. If you look in your search engine, you'll see that this is a term that's only become popularized in the last decade or so. And yet, I was in Los Angeles and in Southern California during these tremendous rains in February. And even setting aside those tremendous rains that afflicted the Southland, it's apparent that there is something new that's going on with regard to the small planet. But it's very difficult for people to accept it precisely because it is something new. And people would like to think that this potential catastrophe is not looming, which I totally understand because it is rather horrific what we may be having to endure sooner rather than later.
I mean, people are clowning this guy, Tyler Owens, the NFL, wannabe, for saying at the Combine he didn't believe in space or other planets. But it's not just him. Like, there's a lot of people. That's a whole thing. Like, the flat earth movement is a whole thing. And the thing that trips me out, which my son put me on to, is that this is actually really popular among young people.
Really?
Yeah, the flat earth movement is a thing among young people that, there's no planets and it's all a scam and the earth isn't a globe. And that, that's what I'm talking about. To me, that's the mentality that allows you to say, Letitia James is going after Trump, when people from New York, lawyers that I know from New York say everyone's known for years that this guy's been, inflating the value of his assets to get loans and playing it down on his taxes and doing a lot of illegal, shady stuff. But like you say, it's common knowledge. She would have been negligent to not bring it, but we can believe another story because we just don't believe in planets.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm afraid to say that the basketball star Kyrie Irving bears some responsibility for this. Now, when he suggested that the earth was flat, he later said that he was just joking. But I don't know. I mean, he's so popular and he's so world-renowned and nationally renowned that when he puts a statement like that out there, it's inevitable that youth who admire him will believe it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also he's admired for being a rebel, right? And so when you're admired for being a rebel, when you say some crazy-ish, people think the man is trying to suppress, the truth that there really are no planets and the earth is not round. We're talking with Dr. Gerald Horne and you. When we come forward, of course, I want to, I have to get your take on Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson of North Carolina, who is now the Republican nominee for governor of North Carolina. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Imagine with me here for a minute the most beautiful panoramic setting. Maybe it's an endless ocean, waves crashing on a beach, or a crystal clear mountain lake, peaceful and quiet. Or maybe it's just little kids playing in the park down the street. Wherever your imagination takes you, now imagine right smack in the middle of this perfect picture, a piece of litter. Just one piece right there in the middle of it all. Doesn't exactly fit, does it? In fact, even though it's just one piece, now it's all you can see. That one piece ruins everything. And that's the thing about litter. It doesn't take much to ruin everything. One thing's for sure, it simply does not belong anywhere in California. So here's the good news. If we work together, we will change it. We don't have to let litter, even just one piece, ruin your perfect picture. Not anymore, not ever again. Clean California, zero litter is the goal. Brought to you by Caltrans and CleanCA.com.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, Honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Dr. Gerald Horne. He really is one of our leading scholars nationwide. It was such a pleasure to see you, Dr. Horne, at the Center for Black Power in Leimert Park, and just in conversation with Dr. Melina Abdullah. What a treat that was. And I'm always thankful because the Pan-African Film Festival lures you out to the West Coast every year.
Oh, absolutely. And it was really stellar this year. Oh, and of course, I saw the documentary about Mary Baraka, the one about Max Roach, the percussionist, and one about Diane Watson, the former congresswoman from Los Angeles.
I heard that one was great, and I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was good to see her on the big screen and to delve into her background. It was historical for the most part. So that was a real treat, I must say.
Yeah, it was a great one, and it was great to see you there. So this guy, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson of North Carolina, beat two challengers, and he will be the nominee to be the Republican nominee to be governor of North Carolina. It means he's got a pretty good chance of becoming the governor of that state. Apparently, there's a quote that's been unearthed now of him saying he's all for going back to the days when women didn't have the right to vote. He is a Holocaust denier who now claims to be in support of Israel. He's, anti-LGBTQ plus guy. I wasn't tracking this guy. I wasn't aware of him. And of course, it makes me wonder if there's a pod somewhere where they're cloning these black men, i.e., Herschel Walker I was aware of. I just didn't know, the level of his ignorance. But it's a thing now, right, for the Republican Party.
Well, he's the most frightening of all. I mean, he quotes Adolf Hitler, for example. I used to teach at the University of North Carolina, so I've been following him for quite a while, and he is frightening. But once again, he's part of a national trend. Your own Larry Elder, who, of course, tried to replace Gavin Newsom as governor of California.
Not my own. Not my own Larry Elder.
In Virginia, you have a lieutenant governor, a black woman, Winsome Sears, who has roots in Jamaica, who could fairly be described as a gun nut, for example. The next vice president of the United States might be Uncle Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina, who, of course, lavishes Mr. Trump with praise at every opportunity. So I think that the GOP thinks that if they can put forward a number of melanin-rich candidates, black candidates, that it'll deflect from the charge that they harbor racism. But I don't think that gambit will work.
James Farr is asking in the chat if reparations will come up tonight at the State of the Union. My guess is no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Why would the president? I mean, to me, politicians, even black politicians, many of them are afraid of that conversation. Why would he put his foot in that? I'm not saying I don't want him to, but I don't see that happening.
And folks in your neighborhood need to realize that California is more advanced than most other jurisdictions on this question of reparations. Now, some of you might be scratching your head since reparations has not arrived in California, but I'm talking about what's happened in Sacramento, what's happening in San Francisco, for example. It's much further down the road. And then you have the Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, who has been in the vanguard of this issue, going back to her days as a professor in San Diego. So you shouldn't expect the California model to be a national model.
Well, we're going to fight for that, but I know what you're saying. Paul Lee says that Mark Robinson thinks that black people owe white people reparations.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, but it doesn't surprise me because I have heard that argument lately from some right-wing nuts that, because white people fought in the Civil War, that we owe them reparations. And it sounds terrible, except for you brought up earlier that Haiti actually did pay reparations to the French. Is there any possibility that they could ever get that money back?
A possibility, yes. A probability, unlikely.
I mean, because the French are they're like loan sharks of the world. I mean, not only they took reparations from Haiti for not owning slaves anymore, they're still, they're still sticking up many of these African nations and taking money out, even though they're supposedly no longer colonizing them.
Well, that's true. And back to the continent, part of the latest news is that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have broken away from ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States led by Nigeria, in part because they felt that ECOWAS was too much in the pocket of France, and therefore they're developing their own bloc separate from ECOWAS, which is obviously weakening ECOWAS.
Oh. Okay, Molly Bell, we kind of talked about this at the beginning, but I'll ask you anyway because she's Molly Bell and she has clout. She wants to know if you really think that Trump will win.
No, but I do know, of course, the polls are consistently wrong. And so what I was reporting with regard to this being ahead in the New York Times poll, that was just for the edification of the audience, not necessarily that I believe it. I think that Trump can be and will be defeated, but it will not be simple, nor will it be easy. Because if you look at the Super Tuesday results that the New York Times reports this morning, he had trouble attracting independents. He had trouble attracting, obviously, the Haley base. And Nikki Haley has not endorsed him, and she may not endorse him, and that's going to wound this campaign. But, of course, with the Trump forces, you always have to worry about an insurrection taking place in case they do not prevail at the polls.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I think they'll probably have a different tactic this time since so many, folks actually did go to jail. But we'll see. I guess we'll see. I don't think he'll win either, but I do think there's a possibility. And I'm glad the polling is like this because at least, Hillary Clinton did kind of take it for granted. I don't know that Biden is taking things for granted right now.
Well, how can he?
Right.
He's getting terrible press with regard to his age. He's behind in the polls. People will consider it a victory if he gets through the State of the Union address tonight without putting his foot in his mouth. So how can he take it for granted?
Yeah. Dr. Gerald Horne, I know you usually bring some, little bit of news, good news, or some hidden headline. So maybe you would leave us with something this morning.
Well, I'd just like to reiterate the fact that national sanctions against Zimbabwe have been lifted. That's a real victory.
That is,
now,
that's big.
Targeted sanctions against the leaders is still in place, but that's a retreat by the United States and its allies. And victories oftentimes are few and far between, so when they come, they should not go unmentioned.
Oh, we only have 30 seconds, but did you hear my brother, the mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, is running for governor of New Jersey?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I plan to support him.
Yeah, it's a big deal, a really big deal, and that'll be a heavy lift, right?
Oh, to put it mildly. I mean, New Jersey is supposedly a blue state, but Chris Christie is out of New Jersey. They've elected too many Republicans to take that race for granted.
Yeah, as my bonus mama reminded me, they used to call it up south.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a northern, southern state. Dr. Gerald Horne, as usual, it's enlightening and fun to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Buy a book. He's got lots of them. We've got news, traffic, and sports, and then your phone calls on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
GOP lawmakers are proposing a measure to get rid of the current TSU board, citing ongoing financial problems. Black Voters Matter